Good morning, Matt England from England Expeditions. How you doing this morning, Matt?
Very well, Dustin. Thanks for having me.
Hey, I am super excited what we got going on here, man. This is episode 1 of hopefully many of our new venture together with Flat Branch Outfitters and England Expeditions.
100%. We've already been on the water.
Yep.
We've already got a day's fishing on camera.
Yep.
Amazing day. Came down here and did some promotions 10 days ago.
Yeah.
Unbelievable fun. I can't wait for this whole series, all these segments to come together. I've had a lot of people send in a lot of questions that they want to be answered. And what a better way, what a better format than having a podcast that you can listen to at any time of the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So one thing that I wanted to do with Flat Branch Outfitters and Flat Branch Media is I am not a professional outdoorsman, okay? But I do love to be in the outdoors. So what I wanted to do with this is bring professionals to help guys like me to, we got limited days, businessmen and people that to get out on the water or in the timber, we don't have time to waste. So I want to bring in professionals like yourself and give us tips, tricks, and strategies to be more successful in the limited time that we got.
And that's a big thing. Speaking about limited time, these tips and tricks are going to help you eliminate areas not to fish. They're going to help you eliminate techniques not to use. They're going to eliminate baits to not use. And the things knowing what not to do are just as important of knowing things to do because of time. Exactly. We only have a certain amount of time that we can fish. It's too bad we all can't fish 10 hours a day. That'd be fantastic. But, you may have 6-7 hours, maybe a week, maybe in 2 weeks. So you want to maximize your time on the water. Hopefully, when you go out to the certain bodies of water you're fishing, some of these tips and tricks and some of the advice that, we cover will really help people catch more fish.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That is exactly what I'm wanting to do. And I think you are one of the best people for this and a perfect fit for us. I started watching you. It's probably been 2 years now. I've seen you on Facebook. We love what you do with your morning. Every morning you get, you get on the live feed and talk about your strategies for the day. And I just wake up and get jealous as hell.
Well, thank you for that. Actually, it's a funny story. Last week I was on Lake Decatur. I was fishing live. And a guy I had taken fishing, his name's Ed, he was watching me live fishing. And he said that his wife said, "Hey, I got to go run a few errands for a couple hours." He said, "I'm going to the lake. I've been watching Matt catch fish."
Yeah.
So I actually saw him at the boat ramp. And, that's exactly what I'm trying to promote, advocate. The sport of fishing is one of the most romantic encounters you can have when it comes to sport. You get passionate about it. It gets in your blood. You can't wait. You don't sleep the night before. So many of my clients say, "I woke up at 2:00. I haven't been back to bed yet."
Yeah.
And that's the way I feel. I don't need an alarm clock for each and every day on the water. Been doing this now for 7 years, and I wake up early, ready to go.
Yeah. Well, the sport of fishing and hunting, it takes you back. I mean, it takes you back those memories with your grandpa and your dad and when you were a kid, and it's just, and then you get to share that experience with hopefully your own children or your grandchildren, but yeah, I just super excited for what we're doing here.
I am too. I couldn't be happier. I think it's going to be a fantastic start to a fantastic relationship.
Exactly. So tell me about a start. How'd you get your start in fishing?
Well, my father is an outdoorsman. My grandfather was an outdoorsman. So we'd go camping. My dad and grandpa and I, my brother, and my grandma, she'd bring us down food every other day, every once in a while, and we'd start down there at the river. And I'd be casting out there trying to catch any species that I could get to
whatever bites.
Yeah. I'm fishing, right? And we would do a lot of bank pulls. We'd try to catch them big flathead catfish, and I look back at that and I got goosebumps right now. I can see pictures of myself, my brother, my dad, and my grandfather holding about a 46-pound flathead. Maybe I can get that picture. I can bring it here. It's a fantastic experience. And it doesn't matter the size of the fish for the memory that it can create.
Right.
And I get to live those moments. I get to help bring those moments to fruition for all my clients. You know, a lot of times these people say, one guy said, "Hey, what kind of fish is that, Matt?" And I said, "That's a huge slab crappie." He said, "I didn't know they got that big."
Yeah.
And we were on Lake Shelbyville. And that gives me just as much joy. You know, it was about a 13.5-inch crappie. Nowhere near a lake record, but it was a record for that individual.
Right.
And that's what it's all about.
Exactly.
We get the picture with them and their young adults, their friends. But so many of the repeat clients are like, "Hey, I got those pictures up on my desk at work." And he goes, "They are great conversation starters." And you know they are. I look at pictures on my wall and it gives me fantastic memories.
Right. Man, I want to go fishing right now.
If the wind wasn't blowing, we could be on the water.
There you go. But so tell me, how did you get to do this for a living?
Well, once Lake Shelbyville came into effect, my father, he's from this area. So him and his friends, they really started to focus on crappie fishing. And I tell my dad, thank you for this multiple times a week. Thank you for introducing me to crappie fishing. I'd say I was about 8 years old when I really got my first crappie rod and we're jigging trees. I'm using minnows, trying to introduce me into progressing into using artificial baits. I was 10 years old. I was fishing with my dad. Caterpillar, where my father worked at in Decatur, Illinois, they have an annual tournament. My dad could have picked anybody he wanted to. Some of his friends were fantastic anglers, just like my father is, but he picked me.
Yeah.
So we're fishing the tournament, and we're right across the boat ramp from Wolf Creek on Lake Shelbyville. There's some standing timbers right there, and we pulled up there, and I flipped my jig out, and the line went tight. I set the hook, and I boat flipped the fish before my dad even knew what happened. That fish weighed 1.3. It won me $92 in 1985, and I've been hooked ever since.
Wow. Man, it's just talking about it. You know, I can't remember what I did yesterday, but you went right back there. You were in the moment. You were there.
I was
just
there.
In your mind, you were there. So that's one of the beautiful things about this outdoors and making memories, like you say. You know, so you how much do you guide? So you guide.
It's all weather pending, but I'm anywhere from 150 to 190 trips a year. 150 is a pretty good average. Last year I fished more in December than I did April. It's all weather pending.
Right. We did have some good weather last year.
We did.
Yeah.
But I'm on the water, 200 days approximately in between Lake Decatur and Lake Shelbyville trying to find something out. I'm trying to learn something each and every trip so I can help increase my clients' chances to having as much fun as possible.
Yeah. Well, I know you have. I can see it in your eyes that you have fun. Even the other day I seen you jump out and you were doing some bank fishing just because your boat was in the shop and you're still putting line in the water.
Absolutely. I get a lot of people asking about tips and tricks for all forms and techniques, and a lot of it's bank fishing. And I had my boat in there at Chips Marine, where I get all my boat work done at in South Sullivan there on Route 32.
Oh, that's a plug right there.
There he is. Hey, check him out. Chip, Ryan, and April. They fantastic crew. So I dropped it off, and it's right there in the inlet to go towards Bow Woods boat ramp. So I had my 6-shooter, my 6-foot 1-piece power crappie rod that I don't leave home without.
Yeah.
So I set up a little cork presentation. I had a Charlie Brewer slider on underneath it. And before the camera was rolling, I actually caught about a 10-inch muskie. That was a lot of fun yesterday. Yeah. So ended up catching several nice crappie. But, any chance I get where I'm near a body of water and I got 30 minutes, you can guarantee I'm going to be getting the line wet.
That's awesome. That is awesome. So, Matt, you you guide and you give your tips and tricks on a daily. But if I was a never went fishing before, all right, but I want to get into crappie fishing, what do I do?
The first thing you got to pack is your positive attitude. I promise you, going to the lake with a positive attitude, you will catch more fish. But if you're just out there, just starting out crappie fishing, all you need to do is go find a tree that is above the surface of the water and just work your bait down to the bottom of that tree. It might be in 15 foot of water. Work your bait all the way down to the bottom. Work it back up nice and slow. Kind of pay attention to how deep you think your line is once you start getting consistent bites. If you don't catch anything, don't get any bites in the first 5, 10, 12 minutes, and you got another tree you can go to that next tree, repeat the same process. And if you're just starting out, get you some minnows.
That's what I was going to ask. What should I use? Should I get, there's so many different color combinations of these jigs and stuff, and hair jigs or plastics, but you suggest just.
I fish with minnows. I have minnows on my boat more days than I don't. I would love it to be a plastic or a hair jig day, like you say.
Right.
But a lot of these companies, they all have a bait that looks just like a minnow.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what they eat every day, right?
And that's kind of what they're eating.
There's not a lot of plastic swimming around there. Well, there probably is nowadays, but yeah, the minnows are that's what they eat.
And and not just a crappie. Every fish in that lake will eat a minnow.
Yeah.
Every fish.
Yeah.
Every fish. So you might be targeting crappie, and we always call them bonus fish.
Right.
Hey, we got a bonus walleye, got a bonus sauger, got a bonus muskie. But I would start out simple, get a rod that you feel very comfortable with. I'm really falling in love with that Ghost from Power Crappie.
That's your new one, right?
That's the new one.
Okay.
That's a 3-piece, 15-foot pole that looks very intimidating to somebody that's never held a rod in their hands.
Yeah.
So like I was talking about that little 6-shooter, that's a 1-piece rod, unbelievable sensitivity. Get you a good rod. And one thing to be very mindful of as well is your line. I believe line is very undervalued when people think about it and when it comes time to fishing, because as you saw when we were fishing on the boat and we were filming, I'm using that braided canine line. I didn't lose jigs.
You didn't lose one. We didn't lose one.
We didn't lose one jig.
And I'll tell you, whenever I go out, or I have gone out in the past, I'm retying jigs constantly.
And people will, but they ask me why I use that heavy 30 to 40 pound braid. I want to fish longer. I want to bring my jigs home with me, and I want to be able to pull that fish out from the deepest part of that structure that crappie might be holding in. I fish a lot of beaver huts, and they're
stuff going every different direction.
There is no uniformity to it.
Right.
So when that crappie hits and it goes down, you got to have a line that can get that crappie out of there. Oh, yeah. For sure.
Absolutely.
So not to get too far ahead of ourselves, but what I would recommend starting out, go find some structure, get you some minnows, get you a cork, maybe just pitch it out there by the tree, and then really be mindful when you know that your bait is near, the actual beam of the tree.
Right.
Be mindful once your bait gets in that strike zone, because the bite can be as light as a baby's breath, or it can be as hard as a handshake that Mike Tyson can give you.
Okay.
Oh, yes, sir.
Yeah. Awesome. That's cool. So, do you recommend a longer pole for your bank fishing? Does that help any, or?
There's a lot of advantages using a longer rod fishing from the bank. You're able to reach out there. You're able to control your bait. You might be able to reach different structures, and you're able to have your presentation be at the speed that is needed for the day. A lot of times there's a tempo, there's a pace to the presentation that makes all the difference in the world. Sometimes if you're moving your bait too fast, the crappie aren't interested. Sometimes if it's too slow, the crappie aren't interested. So there is a sweet spot in that speed. And using these longer rods, you can not only pendulum toss, you could dead stick, you can reverse pendulum toss. And that's very vital, using a longer rod when you want to try to get your bait pushing away from the structure, away from the crappie. Because if you can pull a crappie away from the structure they're holding on, more times than not, they're going to give you an opportunity to set that hook.
Right.
And like I say, hold on because it's about to get heavy.
Yeah. Well, you, I know you talk about the Todd Huckabee rods from the Power Crappie Company. That is one of your sponsors, correct?
100%. And yes.
They make a quality product.
Every rod in their lineup will increase your catch totals, and that's coming straight from me.
Yeah.
I promise you. From the 6-shooter to the K-rod, that's a 6-footer to a 16-footer. Each one of them has strengths to fit your style, to fit your ability. But the thing I really recommend is using as long a rod as you feel comfortable, and then try to increase the length as you can. Because like with the Huckabees, the most sensitive tip, without having a lot of play because of the backbone, you want that sensitive tip with a lot of backbone. You don't want a pole that's going to bend over and look like the arch as you're heading into St. Louis.
Right, right.
You want that to be a big fish creating that. And I've boat flipped, my personal best is a 266 that I boat flipped with the Power Crappie Phantom. And that Phantom was the 13-foot 2-piece pole. That was the first pole they sent me when I got on their team. I got the number 1 written on it. It's a very special pole to me. But every one of them, from the 6-shooter, the Ninja, the Dingo, Epic 8, Hot Rod, Elite, the Pulling Rod, the Meat Dragger, the Slab Swinger.
They've got so many
Trident.
to choose from. But one good thing about them is they're reasonably priced. I mean, you can go overboard with some of these expensive rods that you really don't need, and the price tag on these seem to be.
The price point is right on, right for from the novice to the tournament angler. I see them.
Right.
If you are on Lake Shelbyville and you see 6 boats, you're going to see one of them red rods, and that just proves these guys could pick any rod they want.
Right.
But they pick a rod that performs.
Yeah. Once you get them in your hand, you really don't want to switch it up. But
you probably won't. The balance, the backbone, the sensitivity from the tip to the grip. They got an extended handle that fits right up your forearm. And for me, whenever I'm pendulum tossing it out there, having that cork handle up my forearm and using that balance of that rod, I fish those 15-footers all day long.
Yeah.
They're amazing tools to an amazing sport.
Right. Well, not to get too commercially here, we don't want to get too commercially, but if you're a young person or a person just getting into the sport, why not just get a good quality. Your equipment is everything. Get a good quality piece of equipment, and it'll last you for years to come. And obviously Power Crappie LLC is
I'll tell you what,
recommend, right?
I've been on the team now for 4 years. I've never had an issue with any of them. I've got rods from the very first year. My clients say, how many fish do you think these rods have caught? And that's one thing I've mentioned to Todd and Ken before. I was like, wish these rods had fish clickers.
Yeah.
That way I'd know how many fish.
Yeah.
But that's kind of a joke. But you get what you pay for.
Yeah.
And with the price point being very affordable, I'm telling you. So everyone asks me, what rod do I buy, Matt? I get a lot of people saying, I know you got every rod that they have. And I really recommend that Epic 8. Epic 8.
8-footer.
8-footer, 2-piece, breaks down into 2 4-foot pieces. Great for the car, great for the truck, great for the storing in the boat. Multi-species, multi-technique, from corking crappie to trolling crappie to pendulum tossing to casting. It's an unbelievable pole with enough backbone to boat flip any crappie on the planet. Let me repeat that. Enough backbone to boat flip any crappie on this planet.
Yeah, well, I did put out a little video of you boat flipping that
231.
231, the 231, and there's some great pictures on there of that pole getting that bend and then throwing that slab right in the boat.
And the thing of that is you'll see on that video that I was fishing with Robert Robinson and Ken Roberson, which is the owner of Power Crappie.
Right, Ken.
And We call him WSD. That's what all of his buddies call him. It's the Wister Slab Daddy. We were down there fishing on Wister Lake in Oklahoma last year on January 11th at 10:11 a.m.
Yeah.
He told me there's a crappie right underneath that laydown, and there was a little bit of a triangle, a little hole. He was kind of in a den, and that crappie had that littlest bite that I could feel on that tip of that phantom. I set the hook. That fish went down underneath the branch. You can see the pole bending. I was using that 40-pound K9 with everything set up perfect. You have the best chance for success. I finally was able to control that fish out from that tree, just like they get. Boat flipped him, and then madness happened. I mean, it was unbelievable.
Wow. That's something special. How many fish have you caught in your life? I mean, millions probably.
Well,
I mean,
not millions, but
you know, a lot of
a
fish.
lot of fish.
But yet, one fish after all these years, and that joy that came out of you was just it gave me goosebumps to watch.
It gives me goosebumps thinking about it.
So I mean, that's just a beautiful thing about this sport, and you know, I get excited, you know, just thinking about it. So
it's all about the passion. And I am super passionate about the sport of fishing. You know, we released that 231. They said, "Hey, what's your big fish?" I can remember WSD saying, "Hey, what's your big fish?" And I pointed, I go, "It's this one." And well, we got a big kick out of it. But like I try to stress, you know, it doesn't have to be anybody's record but your own.
Yeah.
You know, we're out here catching memories one fish at a time. You know, a lot of times there's more fun had when people miss a fish. You know, you get it.
And then you can razz them a
little
bit,
the buddies,
you know?
they really razz them, you know. And but if someone says they've never missed a fish, I'd sure like to go fishing with them.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Heck yeah. So you've got numerous sponsors. You've got Power Crappie.
Yep,
LLC. That's your poles.
That's the poles.
And then you got some jig. You got some jig sponsors. Who are some of those?
Well, we got the Top Hat Jig Guppy Gobblers.
Okay.
They actually named one of the hottest selling baits in their entire lineup. I was able to help create. I'm very honored about that. And he said, "Well, you've created the bait color combination. Now all you got to do is name it."
Name it.
So I got a 6-year-old daughter. Her name's Teddy London, England. So we were able to name that jig the Teddy Bug.
The Teddy Bug.
The Teddy Bug. So I got the Top Hat Jigs. I'm very fortunate to be sponsored by Charlie Brewer Slider Company. I've been using Charlie Brewer sliders for 20 years.
Yeah, that was one of your first sponsors.
It was
right?
That was one of the first sponsors.
Yeah.
The first sponsor.
That's special. Right?
That's special. You know, I can remember I was doing a post-fishing interview there, just telling people what we're catching them on, and we were catching them on the baby bass. I remember
the baby bass
from Charlie Brewer, that 1.5-inch slider. And we had tried some other baits, you know, and like I said, I wasn't sponsored by anybody,
right?
You know, so that day was the baby bass from Charlie Brewer slider. And I just held it up and I said, "If you're catching fewer, switch to the Charlie Brewer."
Yeah.
And next thing you know, I was talking to Caroline Brewer, and she is like interested in having you on the pro staff team. And she said, "Would you mind if we use that tagline?"
Yeah.
I said, "No, ma'am."
You created the tagline. I like that. If you're catching fewer,
switch to the Charlie Brewer.
That's awesome. Where's that company out of?
They're out of Tennessee.
Tennessee.
Yep.
A beautiful state. Yeah.
And then the next company I got is the Hoagie Hair Baits.
The
Hoagie Hair Jigs. They're a fantastic lineup of hair jigs, and I get so many people that have never fished a hair jig for crappie. I was guilty of the same thing up till 5 years ago or so, but the pulsating action of that deer hair, and as many people know, deer hair is hollow, so it floats.
Right.
So it really puts out a very
distinct,
subtle, but exciting action. You know, if you're looking for action, all you have to do is just barely manipulate that rod tip, and it kind of just pulsates that bait.
Right.
So some of the favorites that we use on them is Beetlejuice, Plum Crazy. We got Sub-Zero that's been a monster. But again, there's been a lot of research and development on the color combinations for them as well. So, check out the lineup, check out your favorite colors, and get those ordered as well.
Old Mark Hogan, we did a little thing for them too.
Sure did, yeah.
Check that out.
And then I'm also very blessed to be on the iHole Jig Pro Staff team. And the iHole Jig, it is a jig head that has the cavities withdrawn from it that holds the crappie nibble.
Yeah.
For years, I put those crappie nibbles on the end of my hook.
And they fall off before you got even in the water, probably.
They fall off. They hit a branch. They're going to come off. They're going to dissolve. If a crappie does get a chance to hit it, he gets one chance. Yeah. You fill those eye sockets with your crappie nibble. It not only stays in there longer, you catch multiple fish with them.
Right. That's an amazing product. I love checking out inventions and stuff that people do, and that is one. It's like, why didn't I think of that?
My dad says that every day to me almost. He goes, Possum. That's my nickname, Possum. Why didn't we think of that? I'm like, Dad, why didn't we think of a lot of these things? Right.
But what was his name?
Blake Phillips. Blake and Reese Phillips.
Wife, yes.
Yep, they're down there in Dothan, Alabama. And I threw a little southern twang when I said Alabama.
Yeah.
Roll Tide.
You might piss a lot of people off when you say that. But
you're right. I'm not a Tide fan. I'm a Blake Phillips fan.
There you go.
I hope he likes Alabama.
Alabama is a beautiful state. I do love that state.
It is. And another company I'm very happy to represent is Casey Jigs. That's another tinsel jig. And it is an amazing crystal clear water bait. That tinsel is almost holographic. It really puts out an amazing color sheen, just like the scale pattern of those natural bait fish.
A little bit of light or whatever reflects off of it and just drives those crappie crazy.
I'm telling you what, we'll be doing videos together, doing some real clean, crystal clean in the spawn. We'll put them things on there, and it's go time.
There you go.
It's go
That's
time.
Awesome.
Yeah.
You said that's Casey
Jigs. It's Kacee.
Awesome.
Named after each one of his kids and family members.
Oh, wow.
How neat is that,
That's
right?
Nice.
So
I like that.
Ryan Fawcett's the owner of that, and the K9 line. That's one thing that I catch more fish because I'm fishing longer.
Right.
And if you're not tying a jig on, you have more ample opportunity to be in the water.
Yeah.
It's all about having your bait in the water as long as you can each and every time you're on the water.
Well, you sold me on that last time we went out, really every time we went, I don't remember us tying jigs. We just don't. You don't lose because you go with that heavier line, and I've always heard, at the crappie you'll see it, the crappie it's too big, but no, that's not the case. Every time we've went out, that's all I can say about that.
It's a big misconception about people when they hear the word 40-pound braid on how thick it is. Well, it has a 0.23 millimeter diameter.
Right.
That's smaller than a lot of mono.
Right.
And people use mono for years saying that, had no problems with it.
Right. The new technology, the growth of the materials and stuff.
Absolutely.
It's just changed. And so I don't think you can put that, it's a 40-pound. It's not like it was back in the day.
No, it's in different options. You can get from 8 or 9 strand. There's 9 strands of braided line together at a 0.23 millimeter diameter.
Yeah.
I'd love to get down there and talk to Kelly Albert and say, can I watch that process?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be neat to see that made?
Maybe that's a trip we're gonna have to take.
Hey,
we can take the cameras down and bring the mics. Maybe we can all sit down and talk.
Yeah. If you want to see something impressive to watch, it's go to Cornfield Crappie. Go to Cornfield Fishing Gears headquarters. They have more CNC machines. I use their double folding mount. It keeps my electronics up off of the deck. I'm able to control my settings without having to bend down. It's up there off the deck, about 3 foot, right there, perfect for you. Right where you. And the good thing about that folding mount is it folds down, so when you're on the big motor, there's a lot of you're free. You
can see over it.
You can see over it
because obviously it's sometimes a little scary out there on the water with some of these drivers and maybe not anglers, but maybe boaters that are tubing and stuff, and they've got kids, floating in that water, and you're able to look out there and see what's in front of you.
It's an unparalleled product, in my opinion. Not only is it made down in Kentucky, you can go down there and visit them, fish Kentucky Lake. Beautiful country. I tried to tell Mark, if you got any place for sale around here, because you fall in love with all these areas.
Yeah, I think every lake you end up going to, you want to move there. I do anyway. I don't know about you, but
I most certainly do. I even told my wife came home from my last trip in Mississippi. I said, babe, we got to get an Airbnb down there. We got to get a crappie shack down there. We got to get a place to put 2 boats, hold 10 guys. And, because, the state of Mississippi, there's a lot of great states for crappie fishing, but that one holds a very special part to me. That's where my father started going on his first big fish adventures, and to get to hear him tell them stories of catching them big slabs up in there in 2 foot of water.
Those things are monsters down there. I mean, to us, what is it? 13 inches is just about as big as we're gonna find here.
If you catch a 13-inch crappie, you're going to tell your friends. Exactly. I promise you.
You might even put that on the wall here.
A lot of people would put that on a wall.
I think so, but down there, you're throwing those back and not even.
Down there, I was fishing last year, did the 2022 Top Hat Jig Tour in Grenada, Mississippi with Chad Rogers, another one of my teammates. And he's like, you didn't drive down here to catch that 13-inch fish. And I was like, well, yeah, I would. Right. We're out there live scoping, and he is, I've been very blessed in this last calendar year to get to fish with Ken Roberson, Robert Robinson, Todd Huckabee, Chad Rogers. Getting to fish with people that fish the tournaments. Todd's been a guide for a long time. Getting to fish with people that use subtle differences. Right. You learn a lot.
Best in the business.
Best in the business. And, getting to go down to fish with Chad in Mississippi and Grenada. I was down there for 5 days, and I caught 16 fish over 2 pounds, with the biggest one being a 266. I boat flipped that fish before Chad could reach for the net, and we celebrated like we hit the lottery. And I'm going back this year, and I'm going to break that record.
Heck yeah.
We did a live fishing down there with Chad, and
I was practically on vacation with you because I watched when you were down there. I was watching you. I mean, you're obviously going live all the time, and I, like many, are always watching you, and so I was practically on vacation with you there.
I had a lot of people say they felt like they got to kind of experience that with me, because I do love going live. I love going live. There's no room for editing.
Right.
We're either catching or we're not. And one of the live films that we did, I was filming Chad. Chad's chasing down these fish. His first fish he catches, and this is in 45 minutes, he caught a 297 white. It looked like a whale.
Yeah.
Next fish he caught was a 310 black. And then he caught a 315 black nose crappie, which is a characteristic of a black crappie. So in 45 minutes, he had 9 pounds in 3 fish.
Wow.
I was.
And what lake was this on?
That was on Grenada Lake. And to not say I wasn't jealous that I wasn't on the rod, but I was just so happy to be a part of that.
Yeah.
It was an amazing 45 minutes.
Yeah, just coming from down, up here, just witnessing that is something special for us.
We released every one of those fish. It's not like we're going down there putting a knife to anything. Yeah. We're just down there having fun.
Right.
Like get your eater fish. That's fantastic. But, to really help preserve this crappie industry, this crappie sport that is trending faster than about any other fishing arena, in my opinion, release some of those big ones and give someone else a chance, or let it get bigger. When I was down there was a guy, no electronics, smaller boat, just out there having fun fishing with a cork. He caught a 4-pound crappie.
4-pounder.
That was I believe on the third day, before I had left, I think it was Granada Lake Charters. I don't want to misname the actual guide, but he had a 4.2 that a client caught. So it used to be known as the home of the 3-pound crappie.
Yeah.
That's what Granada was known as.
They're getting bigger.
They're getting bigger.
Man, that crappie tournament that was down there this year, it was the numbers were just, I couldn't even wrap my head around it. I mean, how many 4-pounders they were getting and putting in the boat. I mean, it's just mind-boggling to guys like us from here, you know. But
like you were speaking, it's all relative to the body of water you're fishing.
Yeah.
Lake Shelbyville doesn't have but maybe one fish in between that 3.5. There's a big one, I promise you.
Sure. Yeah.
There's that unicorn.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you a quick story. On November 17th, 2020, I was fishing a brush pile, and I saw from the live scope, I saw a crappie come right across the screen about 8 to 10 feet. He hand shook my bait. I set that hook, and I brought that fish to the water. Just as it's coming out of the water, it got off. I let out the no,
Yeah.
you know, because I knew for sure that was my first 2-pound crappie on Lake Shelbyville.
Yeah.
I knew it.
Yeah.
I knew it. So I collect myself, and I drop my bait back down, and the next drop I dropped, I caught a 12 3/4 inch crappie. My client looked right at me. He goes, "That's a dink compared to the one that you just got off."
Yeah.
So we released that fish on, it was a 14 3/4 that 14 3/4 that we released on video.
Oh, wow.
And the fish before that was just in another class.
Yeah.
So I thought for sure it was a 2-pounder until I got down there with Robert Robinson, WSD, and Ken Roberson on Worcester Lake, and I caught my first of several 2-pounders. You know, they're a different looking fish.
Yeah.
They're a different looking
fish. They look
fish.
different, feel different. It's just different.
They act different. They're predators.
Yeah.
You know, even a 10-inch crappie is a predator.
Right.
You got to think anything that eats live bait is a predator.
Right.
Think predaceous when you're thinking crappie. Quit thinking about this little dormant, docile fish that just sits on a stump.
Right.
No, sir.
Yeah.
You watch these fish on these live scopes attack bait balls. It is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, to see the configuration of the bait balls be manipulated when you got any size of crappie, when they're disturbing it and they're breaking it up, it's exciting. You know, these fish, they're a lot more aggressive. They're a lot more active to hit a big bait than we ever really knew about that, you know. So just as everything's moving on, as crappie fishing is progressing, we're really starting to understand, you know, a lot more of their characteristics and their behaviors.
Well, I feel like since the introduction of the live scope, you know, really seeing what these fish are doing, they're doing things that I never thought. You know, you may have 500 fish down there, but they're not hungry. And you know, in the past, you'd be fishing that, and you'd be like, "Oh, there's not a fish down there." And then now you know there's fish down there, but you're kind of learning. You're just getting more information. You're watching these fish go to the bait, go away from the bait, come back to the bait. You know how they come out of the structure. You
hit it right on the head. You know, I tell people it's the funnest you'll ever have not catching a fish when you're watching that Garmin live scope.
Yeah,
you know,
it's like a video game almost.
It is, and you learn a lot about their characteristics, like you say. You know, before, and I don't think we had any schools of 500 because we were targeting shallower structures, but in previous trips we've been together, we've had some massive schools. Mm-hmm. And just like before, if you didn't know how to read a traditional electronic, you might not think there was a fish down there. Right. But there's 300 to 500, 600 fish on this one tree. Yeah. And you know, if not each school is going to be active 24/7, but to optimize your chances at catching those fish, just change baits, change profiles. Mm-hmm. You know, we really got to start thinking about that profile over color, okay? Right. Because the profile is going to go with performance, okay? The performance of the jig. You know, the if it's a full body bait, if it's a paddle tail, if it's a triangle tail, that tail action is going to displace water at its own unique frequency. And each and every day, the profile is going to be your main indicator. Now, you might change your colors once you get on the great profile,
Right.
you know,
Depending on the mood of the fish.
And if you can kind of think about it in relation to when you go out to a restaurant, you look at, there's 100 people in a restaurant eating. 20 people are eating meat, 20 people are eating chicken, 20 people are eating salads, 20 are eating something,
Right.
a pasta.
Right. Yep.
You know, so once you know that you have hungry fish,
That's the main thing.
that's
right
the
there.
main thing. It's like we've all got here together. Catch as many as you can, switch the color, but always stay with that hot profile.
Right.
The profile,
Right.
you know.
That just like the other day when we were fishing, you know, we needed to move that bait a little faster, and that triggered the bite.
That triggered the bite.
You could set it right in front of their face and they would just look at it, but
Yep.
you get it moving, and that predatory,
That predacious
that
nature.
instinct,
That
just says,
instinctual nature.
Now I'm eating. Yeah.
You know, and regardless if we were using the teddy bug, the baby bass, and even the hoagie baits, you know, they still displace water, just not as much. But when those crappie are looking for action on the bait, that rear section for your baits, that's where your money's made at.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about water displacement.
And years ago, that didn't even cross my mind. It was like, I'm just searching colors. I'm just putting different colors on there of the same thing. I just a bunch of different colors, and you know, obviously it wasn't working, or it didn't work, or sometimes it worked, sometimes it didn't. But you know, this is information that is very valuable.
You know, and 7 years ago, I didn't know everything we're talking about today.
Yeah.
And in 3 years, when we're doing another podcast, we're going to be talking about things I don't even know yet.
Right.
And that's what's so exciting. You know, yes, I am a professional guide. Yes, I have major sponsors. But yes, I have areas where I can improve as well. Right. You know, and I want to get better. You know, I'm constantly trying new things on days off when I'm out there on the water, trying to see if I can come up with a little nuance, you know, and a couple things work and a lot of things don't.
Right.
You know, and it's trial and error, and then repeat the successes and get away from the failures.
Right.
I shouldn't say failures.
Right.
There's no failing in fishing. Right. You're out there fishing.
Right.
You're either catching more
right.
or not, you know. And
what do they say? A bad day on the water is better than a good day at work. And
I hear that 150 days a year.
I truly believe that.
It is.
I really do.
You know, because it takes you back. Getting on anybody's boat, getting on a bank of any body of water, it takes you back somewhere.
Yeah.
You know, it's all about that, especially the more you're into fishing. And I'll tell you, Dustin, the number of young adults that are getting introduced to this sport of fishing is increasing, and it's been fantastic. You know, we're really in that Garmin Live Scope, those kids, they pick up on it.
It's, you know, like attention spans are changing. You know, kids aren't going to watch bobbers. They're not going to watch bobbers for hours on end. Back in the day, I used to watch bobbers for hours on end.
We all watched bobbers.
but they're not doing that anymore. The attention spans are getting shorter. These cell phones have changed things. These video games have changed things. But I really believe that, you know, with this new technology, you know, the kids are grasping it. They're seeing it. They're going to have fun with it. You know, they're even when like you said, when the fish doesn't bite, you're still having fun because you know the fish is coming.
The anticipation.
Anticipation.
You know?
Exactly.
And like you said, these kids, this younger generation, they have been brought up more on a technology-based era than I have. I was, you know, I stared at corks. I still stare at corks. I stared at corks yesterday. But what I get to do is I get to introduce these young adults to different techniques. And in some days, the best thing is the cork. You know, if you can go out there and beat every bush that you can find, but some days the best presentation is that cork because, and it's, in my opinion, fishing a cork does not allow you to overfish your bait.
Right.
You know, let the bait perform naturally. You know, again, all these things I say I've been guilty of. I've overfished baits. I've just put too much action on it, and it does not allow the bait to perform like it was designed.
Right.
So if you throw that cork out there, you got a little wind, you don't need to move anything.
Right.
You know,
the water, the waves are bringing it up and down for you.
That's right. It's creating that natural buoyancy. And a lot of times those big fish, they come up slow. They come up deliberate. You don't even feel a bite. All you do is you see that cork just lay parallel to the surface of the water. And I'm usually yelling hammer.
Yeah.
That's my go word for when a fish is on. If I yell hammer to my clients, they know to set the hook.
Wow.
So,
man, I think I want to go fishing now. I don't know what the weather is outside, but we're gonna have to check it. We might just have to go fishing. I just call in sick. I'm gonna call in sick the rest of the day, and we just might have to go fishing.
That's exactly what all these events that we're having in the off season. It's just to help create that to fix the itch. You know, you just want to get out there. You want to be around people, sharing experiences. You know, seeing what's new on the market. You know. There's new colors. There's new rods being released. It's just a very exciting time, even though you can't be on the water as much as you want to.
Right. Well, Matt, I tell you what, we have been talking crappie fishing for a little longer than we were supposed to. We went over a little.
Shocker,
bit. But
shocker.
I think this might be a trend in our future podcast. We might go long. Our format might be a little longer than we originally thought because the passion in which you speak and it gets me excited and it makes me just want to learn more. And
I'm literally sweating when you're like, "Let's go fishing." I'm like, "Let's go."
So on that note, Matt, I'm excited for what's to come here with our new adventures, and we'll just end it on that note.
Yeah, you know, we have a lot more to cover. I got other things that we can always still talk about, but let's end it on a positive note while we both got goosebumps.
All right, buddy. Let's go fishing.
Hey, as I always say, come to Lake with positive attitude, leave Lake with a positive attitude. Introduce young adult to this beautiful sport of fishing. Keep that legacy going. This is Matt and Dustin from Flat Branch Media and England Expeditions signing out. And thank you very much, everybody, for your time.
Signing out. Thanks. Bye-bye.